Should you sell your home or rent it out in 2026? If you're thinking about moving, but you already own a home, you may be facing one of the biggest financial decisions you'll make. Do you sell the house or keep it and rent it out? Because getting this decision right could help you build your retirement. Getting it wrong could cost you hundreds of thousands of dollars or leave you supporting a rental property every single month. And in 2026, this decision has become especially interesting. We have mortgage rates that are very different from what homeowners became accustomed to in the early 2020s. We have homeowners sitting on incredibly cheap mortgages. We have higher rents, higher insurance costs, higher maintenance costs, and different market conditions depending on where you live. So your house could be an incredible wealth building asset, or it could become a financial headache that you're better off selling. In this video, I'm going to show you how I would analyze the decision. We're going to look at the numbers, the advantages of keeping the property, the risk of becoming a landlord, and then I'll give you a simple 3-step framework you can use to make the decision for yourself. And stay till the end because I'll show you the number that I think matters more than almost anything else when deciding whether a property is actually worth keeping. Now, first, we need to understand why this conversation is happening in the first place. For several years, homeowners experienced huge swings in mortgage rates. We went from historically low rates during the pandemic era to dramatically higher borrowing costs afterward. And while the market has adjusted, today's financing environment still matters enormously. But here's what's interesting. If you bought or refinanced when rates were extremely low, your existing mortgage may be one of your most valuable financial assets. Let's say your mortgage rate is around 3%. You move today and you sell the property, that loan disappears. If you ever want to buy another investment property, you're probably not getting that same financing again. That's the lock-in effect. It's a golden handcuff, and it's one reason many homeowners are reluctant to sell. But here's where people make a mistake. A low interest rate does not automatically make a house a good rental. You still have to run the numbers. At the same time, inventory has changed from the extreme shortages we experienced earlier in the decade. Some neighborhoods are still very competitive. Others are giving buyers significantly more negotiating power. And real estate is becoming increasingly local. You can't just say the housing market is going up or the housing market is going down. It really depends on your neighborhood, which might behave completely differently from a neighborhood 15 miles away. That's why this decision has to start with the property itself. The rental math. Now let's get into the part that people usually underestimate. Let's say you could rent your house for $4,000 per month. A lot of homeowners immediately think, my mortgage is $2,800, I'll make $1,200 every month. Not necessarily, because rent is gross income. What matters is net income. Let's use a simplified example. Your rent is $4,000. Your mortgage, property taxes, and insurance combined are $2,800. That leaves $1,200. But now we need to account for everything else. You could have property management, repairs, maintenance, vacancy, landscaping, HOA expenses, or increased insurance, which a lot of Californians are facing nowadays, major capital expenses, or maybe the water heater goes out, maybe you need a new HVAC system, or you have a serious plumbing issue. Maybe the property sits vacant for a month between tenants. Suddenly that $1,200 monthly profit could be considerably smaller. That's why I want you to calculate what I call your real rental cash flow. Take your expected rent, subtract your entire housing payment. Then subtract realistic reserves for vacancy, repairs, maintenance, and management. Now what's left? If you're making $700 or $800 a month after realistic expenses, now we have something worth analyzing. If you're making $50, that's a completely different conversation. And if you're losing $500 every month, hoping appreciation eventually saves you, you need to understand exactly what you're betting on. Now, the tax question. There's another major piece of this decision: taxes. This is where you should absolutely involve a CPA or qualified tax professional because everyone's situation is different. Rental real estate can potentially provide tax advantages. You may be able to deduct certain operating expenses. Mortgage interest may be deductible against rental income, and depreciation can potentially reduce taxable rental income. But there's another side to this equation. When selling a qualifying primary residence, homeowners may be eligible for the federal capital gains exclusion. Generally, that's up to $250,000 for an individual taxpayer or $500,000 for certain married couples filing jointly, assuming the IRS ownership and use requirements are satisfied. And this is important. Converting the property into a rental can eventually affect the tax consequences of selling it. Depreciation can also create depreciation recapture considerations later. So don't make a $500,000 financial decision because somebody on social media told you never sell real estate. Run your numbers and talk to your tax professional. Now, cash today versus wealth tomorrow. We get to the bigger question. Suppose selling your house would put $250,000 in your pocket after paying the mortgage and selling expenses. What could you do with that $250,000? Maybe you buy your next house, maybe you eliminate expensive debt, or you could invest it into the stock market. As a realtor, yes, I know stock market, but maybe you need the liquidity for retirement, or maybe you don't actually need the money right now. That's when keeping the house becomes interesting, because rental real estate can potentially build wealth in multiple ways. You have cash flow. You have loan principal reduction. You have potential appreciation and potentially some tax advantages. Your tenant is essentially helping you pay down an asset that you own. Imagine keeping the property another 15 years. Your mortgage balance could be dramatically lower. Meanwhile, if the property's value increases over that period, your equity could potentially grow from both directions. That's the power of holding a good property long term. But notice the word I used, good. Not every property deserves to be kept forever. Now, real estate as an inflation hedge. One reason investors like real estate is its potential to act as an inflation hedge. Over long periods, replacement costs tend to rise. Labor gets more expensive, materials get more expensive, land in desirable areas remain limited, and rents can increase over time. Meanwhile, if you have a fixed rate mortgage, the principal and interest portion of that payment doesn't rise simply because inflation rises. Think about that. Your income from the property has the potential to increase over time while a major portion of your financing costs remains fixed. That's powerful, especially if you're sitting on a historically low mortgage rate. But again, this only works if people actually want to rent your property. Which brings us to location. Now, should I keep this house? Here's what I will look for. If I'm considering keeping a property as a rental, I want strong rental demand. I want employment nearby. I want transportation access. I want desirable schools or neighborhood amenities when relevant to the tenant pool. I want a property layout that's easy to rent, and ideally I don't want a house that's constantly going to need expensive maintenance. For example, A simple 3-bedroom home in a desirable neighborhood could make a very different rental than an unusual property with major deferred maintenance. Because here's something people forget: you aren't renting your memories. You might love the house. Your kids might have grown up there. You might have remodeled the kitchen exactly how you wanted it. None of that determines whether it's a good investment. The numbers do. So, here's the reality of being a landlord. This is the part that doesn't get enough attention. Rental properties aren't completely passive. Stocks don't call you because the toilet is leaking. Your index fund doesn't text you at 11 o'clock at night because the air conditioner stopped working. California heat. Something to look at. A tenant might. And here in California, landlord-tenant law can be complicated. Depending on the property and jurisdiction, you may have state and local rules regarding rent increases, notices, security deposits, eviction procedures, and tenant protections. That's why you need to understand the rules where the property is located before becoming a landlord. Insurance is another issue. This has been a hot topic lately. Insurance costs have become a much bigger consideration for California property owners. Before deciding to keep the house, get an actual landlord insurance quote. Don't guess, because a few $100s per month in unexpected expenses can completely change your investment return. Now, here are some red flags that might mean sell. So when would I seriously consider selling instead? Here are some red flags. The property would have significantly negative cash flow. You need the equity to accomplish a more important financial goal. The house has major deferred maintenance. Rental demand in the area is weak. A lot of times in Lakewood it is. You're moving far away and don't want to manage remotely. You don't have enough cash reserves. Your retirement timeline makes liquidity more important than long-term appreciation. Or there's another investment opportunity that provides a better risk-adjusted return, say stocks. Here's another big one. You simply don't want to be landlord. Nothing wrong with that. Real estate can be an incredible investment, but that doesn't mean everyone needs to own rental properties. Now, here are the 3-step decisions framework that I would use. Step 1, analyze the property. What would the house realistically sell for today? What would it realistically rent for? Not what you hope, not what your neighbor says. What does the current market data support? Then calculate your real monthly cash flow. Rent minus mortgage, taxes, insurance management, maintenance, vacancy, and reserves. Then look at equity. If you have $500,000 of equity trapped in a property generating $300 per month, ask yourself, is that the best use of $500,000? That's the number I mentioned earlier. Don't only look at cash flow. Look at your return on equity, because the property can have positive cash flow and still be an inefficient use of your capital. Step 2, analyze the market. Look at what's happening specifically in your neighborhood. Are homes selling quickly? Are sellers reducing prices? How much inventory is available? What are comparable properties renting for? How long are rentals sitting? Are rents increasing, flat, or decreasing? What's happening with employment and development nearby? This tells you whether your neighborhood currently favors selling, renting, or potentially waiting. And then analyze your life. This is important. What are you trying to accomplish with your life? Are you retiring in 5 years? 20 years? Are you trying to build a rental portfolio? Do you need the equity for your next house? Or could you financially survive 6 months without rental income? Could you afford a $15,000 repair? Do you want another responsibility? Or would you rather sell, take the equity, and simplify your life? Your spreadsheet doesn't know what you want your life to look like. That's your decision. Now, if you decide to keep it, the numbers tell you to keep the property, treat it like a business from day one. Determine the actual market rent. Get a landlord insurance quote. This is important. Understand your local rental regulations. Estimate your maintenance and vacancy reserves. Talk with your CPA about the tax implications. Decide whether you're going to self-manage or hire professional management. Create a dedicated emergency reserve for the property and establish objective benchmarks. For example, if this property falls below this amount of cash flow, or if the equity reaches this level while my return stays below this percentage, then you reevaluate whether you should continue holding it. That's how you turn your former home into an investment. You stop making emotional decisions and start making financial decisions. So, should you sell your house or rent it out in 2026? There isn't one answer. For someone sitting on a low-rate mortgage, strong rental demand, and healthy cash flow, keeping the house could potentially become an incredible long-term wealth-building strategy. Rather, for someone with massive equity but poor rental returns, major repairs coming up, or a need for liquidity, selling might be the smarter move. The key is comparing both scenarios before you put the home on the market. Because once you sell and that low rate mortgage is gone, you can't simply decide 6 months later that you want it back. If you're in Southern California and you're trying to figure out whether selling or renting makes more sense for your property, reach out to me. I can help you look at what your home can realistically sell for and comparable properties are renting for and what the numbers look like on both sides. Then you can take that information to your CPA or financial advisor and make a decision based on actual numbers instead of guessing. I'm Chris Wall with Onyx Homes, brokered by First Team. If you're thinking about buying, selling, or relocating anywhere in Southern California, my contact information is down below. And if you found this helpful, subscribe because I'm putting out more videos designed to help Southern California homeowners and buyers make smarter real estate decisions. I'll see you in the next one.